to handle my fault, my strokes, grubs, my mess ups, because he's already prepared for what I might do. He knows what I'm going to do before I do it, and he already made preparation for me before I get there. What follows darkness is light. That darkness is the indicator that light is getting ready to shine. So there it is in Genesis, when darkness was upon the face of the deep, and God in the spirit form moved upon the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. Because darkness precedes the light. Are you understanding what I'm saying? But he needs the darkness there so that God can move upon the face of the deep, so that the shift can take place. Let's look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor that shift take place in the darkness. Y'all didn't hear what I just said. Everybody's not going to see the shift that's happening. They see the chaos, but they don't see the shift. They see all the craziness going on in your life, but they don't understand that underneath the darkness, God is moving in secret. He's moving in quiet. He's moving in the hidden places. He's moving in the cracks and the corners and the crevices. He's moving in places that you cannot see. And when the light comes, they're going to see a new order. but untying. And so the universe then has no choice. First attribute of the secret place. The secret place is a place of revelation. It makes you free because it awakens you and makes you consciously aware that everything that you thought was holding you is an illusion. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Emerge Empowerment Session. This is the most powerful place on the planet because we are empowering you on your journey towards spiritual wholeness. And I'm so glad that you've chosen to be with us this morning as we continue this conscious conversation centered around universal patterns. And I know that you were encouraged and empowered by our last broadcast that we did. And today promises to be just as informative, just as impactful. You are going to be glad that you tuned in this morning. You will absolutely be glad. It's going to be revelatory for many of you, and that I believe that I'm going to be able to give you some tools that will help you to be able to cultivate, curate, and to create the kind of life that you desire to have. I'm so glad that you joined us here. Those of you who are watching me right now, please take a moment right now, about 30 seconds, and just tag this video in the comments. Tag all of your friends and invite them to come over and be a part of the conversation. Share it on your page. If you're watching us via YouTube, then you can copy the link right where it says share, and then send it out in your group text to your friends and family members. Invite them to come, because you don't want to be selfish. If you're enjoying it, you're being empowered by it, then you want to be able to share it with other people that you love as well, and invite them to come over and take advantage of the information that we are sharing with everyone here. And yes, I'm talking kind of fast, aren't I? I need to probably slow down just a little bit. It's the coffee. It's the coffee. That caffeine got me hyped this morning, but I'm also excited about the conversation and what we're going to be sharing here today. But yeah, so invite your friends and families to come over and be a part of it. Share this. Now, if you have not already done so, make sure that you like and follow this page on YouTube as well as on the Emerge page. Make sure that you like and follow this page, not just for our empowerment sessions on Sunday, which reason enough, but also for the different videos and shorts and words of encouragement and inspiration that we post throughout the entire week. And also, if you're watching via Facebook, make sure you send us some stars. I'm just starting to really understand what the whole stars thing is about. It's a way of your supporting financially what we're doing here. So if you have access to that, you've signed up for that on Facebook, then send us some stars. And if you can't send stars, at least like it and love it, and do all the other reactions that you can do, because the more you interact with the page and with this live, then it increases the bandwidth of the algorithm, and we're able to reach more people. So I'm asking you to help me to expand this particular platform so that we're able to reach more and more people. So yes, right. I was reading the comment. So thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of preliminary. I want to get right into our conversation, our discussion this morning around universal patterns, and pick up where we left off in part one. We talked about the fact that patterns are the result of the law of rhythm. The universal law of rhythm, that there are certain laws that are put in place by the all of everything, by God the Creator, that have been put in place in the universe, that are there to govern its operation. They are the operating system for the universe. They are impartial.
Okay, so that means that they operate the same universally across the spectrum for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, green, yellow, purple, or polka dot, which I've never seen polka dot people before, or purple either for that matter. But it doesn't matter, in other words, what your culture, your environment, what your ethnicity is. These universal laws are applicable to all of humanity, all of nature, the entire universe. They are the way things function. They're put in place by God for our benefit because we are the divine individuation or expression of God in three-dimensional form, that we are placed in this three-dimensional earth to experience and to express all that God is via who we are. Then these laws are put in place to give us tools to be able to curate and create the kind of lived experience that we want to have in each iteration of life across the multiverse. These universal laws are there and they are for our benefit. They are the all things that work together for good. They are the all things, there it is, that work together for good. All right, so one of those universal laws is the law of rhythm. We talked about this on last week, and I'm just reviewing very quickly as we get ready to get into a further conversation this morning. The law of rhythm states that everything moves to a certain rhythm, a certain distinct rhythm. These rhythms establish seasons, cycles, stages of development, and patterns. Each of these things, these stages, stages, cycles, patterns of development, stages of development and patterns, they all reflect the regularity of God and the regularity of our universe. There are certain patterns that are put in place universally that we are all subject to. And while there are, from what we've learned from science, while there are some 45,000 different cycles or patterns or stages, but cycles is probably the best word, within the earth realm, and that's just as far as we've counted so far, but honestly there are probably even more than that. There are certain universal patterns that are kind of like the umbrella for all of the others. Just as there are, 12 universal laws that govern the universe, they are not the only laws that exist in the universe. There are a multiplicity of laws that exist throughout the universe, but those 12 are like the umbrella under which all the others fall. Well, the same is true when it comes to patterns. There are some universal patterns. I'm going to give you 5 of them that I think are, the umbrella for the other over 40,000 other patterns or cycles that exist within the earth realm. Okay. And we're of course not going to discuss all of those different patterns or cycles. We are going to discuss those universal patterns, but the most important thing is that I want us to understand how patterns affect us as individuals. The unique patterns of our life, the unique pattern of our lived experience. And so that's really where I want to draw your attention into this morning before I even get into all of the other universal patterns. I'm going to give them to you, those 5, but I want to really hone our discussion, focus our discussion this morning on how these patterns affect our life and how we are all subject to these patterns, but that we also have the ability to control these patterns and to manipulate them, move them, shape them so that they serve our highest good. They serve the highest vision and version that we have for our life. All right, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself and moving around a little bit. So let me just go back and let me give you those 5 universal patterns that we're going to use as an umbrella. Now, this is established by me. This is not established by, anyone else. This is not, some other people may disagree and decide, I don't think that that's one of them, should serve as an umbrella. It should be something else. It's okay. This is what I've picked out, which I have seen serve as a universal covering or umbrella under which all the other thousands upon thousands of patterns and cycles can be categorized. Okay? Are you ready? I'm going to put them on screen for you. All right, here are my choice of those 5 universal patterns so that you're able to write them in your notes. Go ahead and write this down. Number 1 is seed time and harvest. Seed time and harvest. And those of you familiar with the Bible knows that there's a text that says, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest will never cease. Okay? Seed time and harvest. I'm not going to unpack them. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. We'll unpack them later on as we get into the different parts of the conversation that we're having. Number 2 is chaos, shift, new order, and what I call glorious manifestation. I combine those 2 words because the glory is the revelation, the insight, the understanding, and then manifestation that is closely connected and corresponds with our understanding, because our understanding of a thing determines the manifestation of the thing within our life. Again, I don't want to get into it too much to unpack it. We'll talk about that later as we unpack each one of these patterns. Number 3, winter, spring, summer, and fall. You're very familiar with this seasonal pattern within the earth. But I guarantee you that you probably haven't given a whole lot of thought to how they affect your life and how you can affect the seasons. We'll talk about that later. And then there is contraction and expansion. Everything in the universe is in a constant state of contraction and expansion. Contraction and expansion. It never ceases. There is always the process of contraction and expansion. And then finally, birth, death, and rebirth. I know we usually think in terms of life and death, and most have this idea surrounding death that it is final, that death, there's a finality to death that says it's over. But death is not really defined in the way that we have been trained or domesticated into thinking. Death is really just a process of transformation or transitioning from one existence to another. So the pattern is birth, death, and rebirth. Okay. And again, I'm not going to go too far into that, but these are those 5 universal patterns that I believe are an umbrella for the multiplicity of other patterns that exist throughout the universe and across the multiverse. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time to write each one of these down. If not, we will be back to them individually, so you'll have a chance to write them then. But just for those of you who are taking notes, take another 30 seconds and finish up writing these 5 down, if you will. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. That's good coffee. That's really good coffee. All right. So you should have that already written down by now. If not, then you'll have to get it later. Okay. Let's get back to the conversation. Just again to review that our life, each one of us individually, are subject to these patterns that are universal. Okay, it doesn't matter how powerful, anointed, and great you are. You don't stop the pattern of seed time and harvest. You don't get to stop the pattern of life, of birth, death, and rebirth. We are all born, we all die, and we're all reborn. Everything goes through this particular pattern. These are universal and they are not subject to us. We are subject to them, but they are put in place for us. Let me say it again. They are not subject to us in the sense that we can stop them. They are subject in that we can control and manipulate them. We are subject to them. That is to say, we are all affected in some way by these patterns. Expansion and contraction, we are all subject to these patterns. We are all affected by these universal patterns. But every one of us individually have and this is again reviewing what we talked about last week. Each of us have a rhythm, a resonance, a reason, and a relevance. That we have a rhythm, which is our individualized pattern, a resonance, which is our vibrational frequency that we emit as energetic forces or spirit in three-dimensional form. We have a reason, we have an original intent or a purpose for our existence in the earth at this time, in this place and space. And then we have a relevance, something that is to say that we are interconnected with all and everything around us, that we are tied inextricably to every part of nature, the universe, as well as each other. None of us are an island. Okay, again, we talked about this last week. Today, what I want to do is to draw your attention in and focus on the rhythm of our life, the rhythm of our life. That is the pattern of our life, the regularity, the repeated patterns, or our mode of operation, or our operating system, the operating system of our life. Every single one of us, each of us, our lives have an established pattern, an established mode of operation or operating system that is idiosyncratic. That is to say, it is uniquely tied to who we are. Okay? Every single one of us. I have this habit that I established within myself early on as I began to notice different patterns in the earth. I understood that if I would study the people in my life, I could begin to uncover and discover their pattern of thinking, their pattern of behavior, reactions, and actions, their patterns of moods and seasons in their life. I did that not for manipulative reasons, but to better be able to relate to the people that are in my life. People all have a pattern. Every person has a pattern of thinking, a pattern of behavior, a pattern of expression, of actions and reactions. All of us have a unique pattern that is idiosyncratic to us, every one of us. How we think, how we feel, how we speak, how we behave. Okay, there are certain patterns that are tied to culture, religion, environment, family, experiences, trauma. These patterns are there for the discovering. The reason I said I do this, I began to make this a habit to study, closely examine the people that are a part of my inner circle, that are a part of my life, to understand their patterns. It helps me to be able to better relate to them in a harmonious manner when I understand their pattern. But ladies and gentlemen, it is not just for external examination, but also internal. Each of us should take advantage of the ability and the capacity we have to examine ourselves and take note of the patterns that exist in our own life. Let me say that again. To really take note of the patterns, the regularities, the cycles, the stages of development that exist within our own life. Now, you might not even think, well, I don't really have a pattern. I guarantee you do. The thing is that patterns become so familiar, they become second nature. And so you don't even recognize that you are following a specific pattern because you don't really pay attention to yourself. Most people are completely oblivious. They are not self-aware at all. Or if they are, it is at a very minuscule level. What I'm encouraging you today is to become more self-aware by taking note of the patterns in your life. How you think, how you feel, how you speak, how you behave, how you respond, and the actions that you take. Why is this so important? Because if I can discover the pattern, then I can begin to ask the next crucial question. What is it that shaped this pattern? What is the why to the what? Why do I act this way? Why do I think this way? Why do I behave this way? Why do I feel this way? Why do I make the choices that I make? What is the substratum or the foundation for the choices, decisions, responses, reactions, perceptions that I hold? What is it that has established this pattern of behavior, thinking, and speaking in my life? When I can get to the substratum, the foundation, when I can get to the root of the pattern, then I can adjust it so that I can shift the pattern, and then therefore create a different reality for me. That brings me to the next thing about patterns. 4 things about patterns that are helpful for us. Patterns are, number 1, predictable. They are predictable. Predictable. They are good for preparation and planning, and then also preference. I probably should have wrote these down so I'd have them on screen, but I'll repeat it again. They provide us with 4 things: predictability, preparation, planning, and preference. That's right, Kimoria, the ability to transmute energy. We're going to get into that a little bit more. Predictability, they provide us with predictability, preparation, planning, and the most important and most powerful of them, preference. Okay? Predictability. Let's kind of dive in on that piece. Let's hone down on that, focus on it for just a second. Patterns provide us with predictability. I mentioned this before last week when we were talking about patterns, how in the scriptural text in the Bible, Jesus is purported to have come out of the temple and began to, in Matthew chapter 24, lay out a game plan or a sequence of events that will take place in the earth as we approach what some call the end times, the last days, so on and so on and so forth. Okay? But it's interesting that as he begins to lay out all of the things that would take place, he does them in a sequential order. Interesting enough, incidentally, patterns can be chronological, sequential, and spatial. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But he gives us a chronological, sequential pattern of events. When you see this happen, know this is getting ready to happen. And when you see this happen, know this is getting ready to happen. And when you see the abomination of desolation, then stand in a holy place, then do this. When you see this begin to happen, nations against nations and fathers against sons and mothers against daughters, know this is getting ready to happen. Okay? This lineup gives us a chronological and sequential pattern. It says to us, here is what you can expect. It is predictive in nature. You know that if a thing is following a predictive pattern, you can know what's getting ready to happen next. I talked about the washing machine, how all of us use a washing machine rather to do laundry. And you set the cycle depending upon what you put into the machine. And if you have the kind of washing machine that has little lights that light up, those lights will tell you at what stage the cycle is in as your clothes go through the process of being washed. That allows you to predict how long it's going to be before it's over, when it's about to come to an end, if it's at the beginning or are you in the middle of it, what you can expect the machine to be doing. It is predictive in nature. So when we study patterns, the first benefit we gain is the predictability of the pattern. When you begin to study the patterns of your relationships, the patterns of your thoughts, the pattern of your words, the patterns of your actions, then you begin to have the advantage of what the predictable outcomes are going to be about the thought, the decisions, and the choices. There is an old saying that is absolutely true, that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing, the same action again and again while expecting a different result. When you understand the pattern of cause and effect, another pattern structure, then you are able to understand that if I continue this pattern, I have a predictable outcome. 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. Whether it's 1 plus 1 in Germany, in Haiti, in America, in Africa, 1 plus 1 will always equal 2. The outcome is predictable. How many predictable patterns have you seen in your life where you continue to make the same decisions, the same choices, and you keep getting the same outcome because you have not taken note of the pattern that has been established by the way that you are thinking, by the foundational structure from which you are making decisions and choices? How many of you follow a certain pattern in your relationships? In your romantic relationships, friendships, associations, a pattern of a sequential pattern that your relationships seem to follow. And so you lament to yourself, I always seem to pick this type of person. My relationships with this, whether it's a man or a woman, my relationship never seem to work out. Every time I think I got a good one, this happened. Every time I think I'm in a good place, then this happened. Are you seeing? And you keep seeing this same circular pattern happening in your relationships. Now, the common denominator is you. But if you don't notice the pattern, then you'll start to come up with erroneous conclusions like all men are this way, all women are this way, all people behave like this, all churches are like this, all corporations are like this, all, whatever the label might be, behave like this. You begin to arrive at erroneous conclusions that become your reality because they become like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you are speaking your reality out of your own mouth and creating a lived experience that you feel helpless and tied and tethered to, when in fact it is a predictable outcome because of the pattern of your behavior. So you start doing the next provision. Now you understand what I'm saying? That is preparation. You start preparing for the predictable outcome before it comes, because the preparation reflects your expectation. Back to the washing machine. You start getting yourself in the mindset, these clothes are going to be coming out of the washer. I'm going to have to move them to the dryer. And you are already preparing for the inevitable part that none of us really enjoy. Well, I don't enjoy. I can't say none of us. I don't enjoy of taking them out of the dryer, folding them, and putting them away. Oh my God, if I could pay somebody to do laundry for me, I would pay them. I hate doing laundry. Oh, especially the folding and putting away is just annoying to me. I like my clothes to be nice and neat and everything, but I don't want to have to do it. And so one part of my predictable pattern is they may sit in the dryer for a while before I finally pull them out and fold them and put them away. Oh my goodness. But preparation, okay? So I have to mentally prepare myself for the inevitability that the clothes are going to be dry and will need to be folded and put away. So I play mental tricks on myself, and I try and make sure that I have certain distractions around so that I can not focus on the action of folding and putting them away, but focus on maybe the music or the television show that's on or the book that I'm listening to or something else that takes my mind away from the focus of having to fulfill the responsibility of folding and putting these things away. And the same is true with all of us across the spectrum. That those predictable patterns that we have in our life, we begin to prepare for the inevitable outcomes. You already know what the outcomes are going to be, or at least you think you know, because of the predictive pattern. And so you start to prepare. So I'm going to cut them off before they cut me off. I'm going to sabotage this relationship before I get hurt. I'm going to sabotage, y'all not hearing me, come on. I'm going to sabotage this connection before it backfires on me. I'm going to get them before they get me. I'm not going to put my whole self into it because I already know eventually it's going to come to an end. They're going to hurt me. They're going to break me. They're going to scar me. They're going to deceive me. And so I'm going to prepare myself for what I have believed or accepted as the inevitable. Oh yeah, it's going good now. Oh yeah, they excited now. Oh yeah, they just so in love with me now. But I know down the road. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? That preparation. And so with that preparation comes planning. You start planning. You prepare and then you plan. You prepare, expectation, and then you plan. You are planning for what you have accepted as the inevitable outcome. And so you start planning and preparing and planning and putting together a safe space for you to land, so that whatever you have decided is the inevitable outcome does not destroy you, doesn't break you, doesn't hurt you, doesn't cripple you. So you put in place this plan, a mattress, if you will, a net for me to be able to fall into. But ladies and gentlemen, if you are planning, if you are preparing, if you are predicting the worst, that's exactly what you're going to get. Are you hearing what I'm saying? That ties to the law of faith. We know that faith is the substance, the essence, the power, the substratum, the basis of our expectation, the substance of things hoped for. It is the foundation for what we have an expectation for. And it is the vehicle by which we are provided infallible proof that what we expect really does exist. Faith is a valuable tool, but it is imperative that we understand that faith continues to work as it always has. It is a law, regardless to what is the object of your faith. So if you have faith in failure, faith has no choice but to give you the manifestation of what you have placed your faith in. You have faith in the failure of the relationship. If you have faith in the failure of the business, if you have faith in limitation, then faith has no choice but to align itself with your expectation. And ladies and gentlemen, many of you that are listening to me right now have established patterns or cycles of failure and disappointment and rejection in your own life that have become so familiar that your faith is in them. Ooh, did you catch what I just said? You have faith in them. You just believe this outcome is inevitable. I was talking with Dee Dee because she's a teacher, and I was asking her about how they teach students about how to count, how to read. And she began to explain to me that, they began by, in kindergarten, they began, let's say with counting, they began by helping those students to recognize first the sequential order as well as the symbol of each of the numbers. 1, 2, 3. They learn to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the sequential order of the number. The recognition of the symbol. 1. And they do this, she said, by visualization and touch. So like they learn that this straight line is a 1. 1. They associate 1 with the straight line, the symbol 1. Then they'll use some other type of object like an apple, and they'll put one apple there so that the child is able to associate now the symbol 1 with this reality of one apple. 1 equals the 1 apple. 2 equals the 2 apples. 5 equals these 5 objects. Those objects reflect the reality of the number symbol that they have come to recognize as a 5. And it clicked. It immediately clicked to me. Because when I asked her, what if the teacher takes this blank slate of a student and teaches them that the symbol 5 is associated or equated to 2 objects. Because they don't know anything other than what they're being taught, they would go through life seeing the symbol and associating it with a certain reality of 2 objects. They only know what they have been taught this symbol recognizes, or rather equates to. They've been taught to recognize and associate this symbol with this reality. If they were taught a different reality to associate with a different symbol, then they would believe that is the truth. And you would have a hard time convincing them, just as you have a hard time. Anyone would have a hard time right now convincing you that 5 apples is actually 2. You would say something's wrong with you, you're retarded. But we have all been programmed, domesticated into accepting as our reality that this symbol, are you hearing what I'm saying? This symbol 5 is reflected in this reality. Okay. How many of us, all of us, have been domesticated, have been programmed, indoctrinated that certain things that happen in our life, certain events, certain words, certain places equate to a certain reality. Those are agreements. Exactly. Kamora, you are following what I'm saying. Those are agreements we have made and hold it as our reality. Absolutely. And so each of us enter into agreements, I like that word, or accept as our truth that these things represent a certain truth or reality of our life. And anything outside of that, we think is crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, those agreements, those acceptations, there's no such word, acceptances, those things that we have accepted as our truth, our beliefs, are manifesting or creating our reality. We are actively doing so most of the time on an unconscious level. And in doing so, we are establishing a cycle or a pattern within our own life. All of us are living inside of these patterns that we have constructed within our own life based upon our indoctrination and our domestication from culture, environment, friends, family, and others around us, experiences, trauma, and so on and so forth. Around something as simple as a word or a phrase. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. So someone say, yo mama. You've been taught there's a certain way you are to respond to your mama, depending on the context in which it's used. If you shooting, playing the dozens, then you respond with another your mama, and you try and one up each other. If someone says it in anger, well, those are fighting words. I know you ain't talking about my mama. Who said? Who established that? Your culture, your environment, your upbringing. Just a simple phrase. Your mama. Your daddy. Or we say your whole generation. And so you begin to establish patterns within your life. How many of your decisions, choices, actions, behaviors are truly your own, or how many of them are following a certain pattern established by your beliefs? You keep getting the same outcome because you keep taking the same actions, making the same choices, because those choices come from the same place, the same ideology, the same beliefs, the same truths in your mind. And so you have established this pattern in your life. And it is a predictable pattern. Absolutely predictable. As predictable as the sun rising and setting, as predictable as the change of season. You know these things are getting ready to take place. And those who are from the outside, who truly know you, become aware of your pattern. Oh, no. You better not do that with them, because I know how they're going to act. I know how they're going to respond. No, you don't want to say that. No, you don't want to act that way. You know, you don't want to do that with them. Or if you do this, then you'll probably get this response. If you act this way, then you'll probably get this response. Oh, yeah, and this will be good for them because they like this type of thing. They've begun to understand your pattern, or you've begun to understand their pattern. See, we are involved in these patterns and cycles and stages most of the time on an unconscious level. We're not even really thinking about it. Okay? And so you have they have this predictability, preparation, planning. But here's the thing. They also are subject to your preference. Because if you can locate the pattern and then locate the foundation from which the pattern has been built upon, that's the belief, the ideology, what you have accepted as your truth, you can change it at its root and therefore change the pattern. There's a scripture text in the Bible that kind of reverse engineers this when you start talking about renewing your mind, reconfiguring. It's a text in Corinthians that says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. I don't know how this, well, yes, I do. I was about to say, I don't know how this text got so discombobulated in the church world. Yes, I do, though. Because the church world would rather believe in the spooky than the practical. But the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations, okay, bringing into captivity every thought that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And that got turned into spiritual warfare. And folk, jumping around the building and pulling it down. Pull down them strong. Oh, pull them down. and binding principalities over the city of, and this place, and, demons and hanks and curses over this city and that place and this. Oh, we pulled down the stronghold. But that's the spooky instead of the practical. It doesn't even align with what the text is talking about. Okay? Because listen to what it says. That the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. That means they're not natural. They're not tangible. They're not something that you can hold. They're not three-dimensional objects that you can hold in your hand, like a gun or a knife or a cannon or some other weapon of that sort. Okay? Oh, I'm going to pause. Hold on, because I just saw this comment. And I think it's good because I know it's good. It's Teresa. She says, even though faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, even though it's not physically Yet don't we have to imagine and see it in our mind's eye for it to manifest in a physical reality? Not necessarily. Okay, visualization is certainly a key component to accelerate manifestation. But you don't even have to visualize it. It's enough that you believe it. Belief is so important that it can produce the manifestation on its own, because our belief informs our thinking, it informs our words, it informs our actions. Okay? But let me go back and unpack that text, the spooky instead of the practical. We pulling down the stronghold. Listen to what the text says. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, not natural, not three-dimensional objects, but they are mighty, powerful, capable, through God, the all of everything that lives within us, to the pulling down of strongholds. And that's where we got hung up. Because he used the term pulling down, and so we thought, oh, down, that means it's above me. It's up there. But had you just kept reading and made the connection with the next part of the verse, you would have understood he wasn't talking about up there, but up here. Pulling down the strongholds, casting down imaginations. Where do you imagine? Where does imagination take place? It takes place within your mind. That's not enough? Well, casting down imagination and then bringing into captivity every thought. Is that happening up there in the sky, in the by and by, above the clouds, floating over a city? Or is it floating up here in the heaven of your mind? Are you understanding? And so he kind of gives us a reverse engineering of how you deconstruct and reconstruct, reconfigure, remind yourself. Everything begins with a thought, an idea, a concept within our mind. Every pattern of thinking with our mind. Again, we know the basis, substratum of all of this is cultural sometimes, religious and environmental and trauma and so on and so on. But still, it begins right there. How I'm thinking. So if I want to pull down the stronghold, what is this stronghold? It is my pattern of thinking that informs my behavior. What is the stronghold? It is the pattern or the cycle or stages through which I go through in my thought process that informs my perception. It informs my words. It informs my actions, reactions, and behaviors, which is the process of manifestation. It all begins there. The logos, the thought, the idea, the concept. So if I'm going to pull it down, I have to start with the imagination. What I have thought is going to be and happen, and I have come to believe it to be the actual truth. And bring into captivity every thought, every wayward, disempowering thought that exalts itself against the knowing or the knowledge of God, the knowing, the intuitive knowing that exists within me. You see, each and every one of us know everything. You just don't always know that you know. You're not consciously aware of your knowing, but the knowing is there because you are God in the flesh. And is there anything that God doesn't know? Absolutely not. God is omniscient. So you are omniscient. But you are not consciously omniscient. You are materially omniscient in the fact that you are the divine in three-dimensional form. But that knowing is often covered up with belief, with ideas and concepts about this present reality that is not based upon truth, but based upon culture, environment, religion, what you have been domesticated into accepting as true. And so he says, you got to bring into captivity every wayward, disempowering thought that will elevate or exalt itself above what you instinctively know. Whoo! Man, can we talk about that for just a second? Because how many of us have grown up in a reformation or an environment or a culture or religion where what we were hearing and being told was true didn't resonate with the reality of our intuitive knowing? You know, something inside of you tells you this ain't right. This don't make sense. This is not in harmony with the I am, with who I am. And yet we exalt what we have heard, the words that are spoken, above what we intuitively know. I've already said before that words are the lowest form of communication. They really are the lowest form of communication. Intuition is really at the top. Because your intuition never lies. Intuition is the knowing of the soul. It's knowing. And yet we have been trained and domesticated into accepting what we hear. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Above what we intuitively know. Now I'm about to say something that's going to be a little bit controversial. Probably not to most of you who follow me on a regular basis, but to a few, and especially those who are ascribed to Christianity. When you align yourself with your intuitive knowing, you don't need faith. You only need faith for what you're not confident of, what you don't know. Lord of mercy. I know I just lost about 4 or 5 Christians. You don't. When you know, why do you need faith? Let me put it like this. Let me see. If you move to a city that you've never lived in before, and you're without a vehicle, so now you have to depend upon public transportation. But you've never caught the bus. You've never caught the bus in that city before. What you do is go online, or you go to a particular place and you pick up a schedule for the bus. You read the schedule and it says that the bus will show up at this particular bus stop at 10:30. You have read it and you see that the bus will show up at 10:30. Then maybe you ask a few people that live in your neighborhood. I see the bus stop out here. What time does the bus come? Or it shows up here at 10:30. So now you have what's written and what's being said. Confirmation that the bus shows up there at 10:30. Now you don't know that it shows up at 10:30. But based on the evidence presented to you from the document, from the schedule, from the people around you, you believe that the bus is going to show up at 10:30. And so you go to the bus stop at 10:25, waiting with expectation, faith, that the bus will show up at 10:30. And sure enough, 10:30, bus pulls up, you get on, pay your fare, go where you gotta go. Next day, catch the bus again, 10:30, get on, pay your fare, go where you gotta go. Next day, shows up at 10:30, bus is there, pay your fare, get on, go to your next location. You no longer need faith to believe. You now have a knowing. Why? Because you have the experience that aligns harmoniously with the bus showing up at 10:30. You're not waiting at the bus stop by faith. You have gone to the bus stop knowing that at 10:30 the bus will be there. You also know, watch this, you also know that if you get there at 10:45, you'll miss the bus. You don't have to look at the schedule. You won't even leave your house. You look at a clock and say, oh, it's 10:45. No need in me going out there. I have missed the bus because I know it comes at 10:30. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me stretch it even further. Once you have approached the place beyond faith and now knowing that the bus will show up at 10:30, if you arrive at the bus stop at 10:25 and it is now 10:40 and the bus hasn't come, you don't question the schedule. You don't question the people around you. You begin to say, what's preventing the bus from being here at 10:30? I know that it shows up at 10:30. So if it does not show up today at 10:30, then there has to be something that has occurred that keeps me from getting to the bus, or the bus getting here at 10:30. Am I at the right bus stop? Is the clock set correctly? Did I read the time correctly? Did something happen to the bus to prevent it from reaching the destination? Has the pattern changed? What has caused this break in the pattern? Are you understanding what I'm saying? That, ladies and gentlemen, has gone beyond the act of faith. Now you are operating from a place of knowing, and knowing allows you to begin to now make adjustments or to analyze what's in front of you with more intelligence so that you're able to understand what happened to the predictability of this particular pattern. What's keeping it from happening? What's preventing it? Once I deal with whatever the thing is that is causing an interruption in the pattern resumes. Are you understanding what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? Okay? We all have established patterns within our life. Some of them are chronological, some of them are sequential, some of them are spatial. But they are patterns nonetheless. Okay? We all have them. The key is to examine them, to be mindful of them, so we can adjust them. Maybe change the route of the bus. Ooh, did you catch that? Change the route of the bus so that instead of it picking you up in one place, it picks you up in another. Are you hearing what I'm saying? When you start to be self-aware, insightful, you are able to begin to uncover those patterns within your own way of thinking, your own way of speaking, your own way of behaving, so you can change the route of the bus and you can start to get a different outcome. Are you understanding what I'm saying? You keep getting these negative, or what we call negative outcomes. But what is and so you have a pattern of these negative outcomes. But what is the underlying belief or idea or your truth that supports this particular pattern? Y'all have heard me say on here before, you have to learn to start killing the ants. Ants are a pattern. And ANTS is my acronym for automatic negative thought syndrome. Those little ants that those negative thoughts that immediately invade your mental space, triggered by what you perceive, how you've been taught to perceive it, how you've been taught to understand it. Hello? Oh, I've seen this before, so I know this is getting ready to happen. Oh, I know what this is. Are you understanding? See, the one constant in the universe is change. Energy is always evolving being and becoming. And so you can never rest in the idea that what is this today will be that tomorrow, especially when you start talking about people. Even though you have understood their pattern and seen a pattern of behavior with them, you don't know what has transpired with that person since the last time you saw them, and the pattern may have shifted or changed. And grace is when we give people the space to change their pattern. That we don't enter in with any preconceived ideas or notions about them. We give them the space to change their pattern, because you know that your patterns change as you change your understanding, your level of understanding. You evolve. You become more enlightened. Are you understanding what I'm saying to you? So while patterns do provide us with a certain predictability, especially as it relates to cause and effect, that predictability is not permanent if you change the pattern. And you change the pattern by simply pulling down strongholds, casting down imagination, bringing into captivity every thought that exalts itself against the knowing, above the knowing, the knowledge of God. Are you understanding what I'm saying to you this morning? Are you understanding what I'm saying to you? Okay? So what I want you to do, or glean from this particular conversation, is to begin to take note of your own patterns. Don't weaponize this and start trying to use it to label other people. Start with you. I want you to begin to take note of your own patterns, your mood patterns, your behavior patterns, your response patterns, your thought patterns. Take note of the ants that are creeping, those automatic negative thoughts. Where did they come from? Thoughts of abandonment, rejection, those thoughts that are tied to insecurities. Where did they come from? I heard a story one time, and we're finishing, from a friend of mine there in Fitzgerald, Georgia. She was teaching, ministering, and she told this story about a little girl watching her mother prepare a ham. And while she was preparing to bake the ham, she would always take the knife and cut off the end of the ham and then put it in the roaster and bake it and cook it. And throughout her entire life, she always watched her mom as she was preparing to cook the ham, to cut off the tip of the ham, put it in the roaster in the oven and watch it to cook. So she began to accept this as the correct way to prepare a ham. So when she became an adult, she was a grown woman and she wanted to prepare ham for her family. She always made sure she cut off the edge, the top of the ham, the tip of the ham, put it in the roaster, put it in the oven, and then it would cook. Okay? With seasoning and everything else like that. All right? Her daughter watches her do the same thing that she saw her mom do. And she asks, Mom, why do you cut off the tip of the ham? And the mom didn't really have an answer, except for, this is what I've always seen my mom do. This is the way you cook it. This is the way you prepare it. You always cut off the tip of the ham, put it in the roaster, season it, put it in the oven, cook it for this long, and it always comes out delicious. So now the woman, intrigued by her daughter's question, goes back to her mother and says, Mom, I cook my ham exactly the same way that you do yours. But I got a question. Why did you always cut off the tip of the ham? Does it add flavor? Does it make it cook more evenly? What is it about cutting off that tip that makes the ham so delicious? And the mother reveals, has nothing to do with the ham. I cut off the tip of the ham because my roaster was too small to put the whole ham in. So I would cut off the tip so the ham would fit into the roaster and I could put it in the oven and cook. Some of y'all caught that. How many things are you repeating because you watch your mother, your father, your cousins, your uncles, your brother, your preacher, the other saints do? And you don't understand the why for the what. This is what everybody else is doing. This has always seemed to be the outcome. And you think that this has something to do with whether or not the ham is going to be delicious or not. So you follow along the pattern, even though you don't understand the reason behind it. And you are throwing away a valuable cut of meat, a piece of the ham that was edible, because you thought it was necessary to do so. How many things that can be beneficial to you spiritually, beneficial to you practically, that you abstain from because you watch your mom, your cousin, uncle, auntie, you listen to the preacher and the saints tell you that don't do this because it's going to send you to hell. It's a trick of the devil. It's a only to discover that you're throwing away something that is valuable, that can aid you, that can be of real service in your life. It just doesn't fit into the pattern of what has been done and you've seen. I want you to think about that for a second. I often get into some exchanges with some of my former colleagues because they take a very dogmatic stance that this is acceptable, this is unacceptable, this is godly, this is ungodly, this is holy, this is unholy. When they hear me say, just because it lies or falls outside of the spectrum of your ideological belief does not make it good or bad, wicked, ungodly, unholy, because it doesn't fit the narrative of your particular religious ideology. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Okay. So I want you to take some time and discover your own patterns. Become aware of your patterns of behavior and thoughts and ideas and movements and choices and decisions, and begin to deconstruct them, pick them apart, pay attention, ask the hard questions. Why do I think this way? Believe this way? Move this way? Make decisions the way that I do? Is it from what I know or what I've been taught to believe? Especially if you're in the place where you keep getting all of these outcomes that you don't desire. Take note of the pattern. The pattern is predictable. And then do the necessary work to change the pattern. All right, I've gone way over time, 22 minutes over my time. Yes, Gloria, I know. She is the advocate for going for 2 hours, and I have struggled to get there, but I still think about it. Okay, so anyone have any questions? Put it in the comments right now. Questions, comments. Let me go back through the comments and see if I missed anything. Whoa, Jamal, I didn't know you were in here, man. My bruh. Love this brother, man. Yes. Okay, I don't see any questions there. All right, so we'll pick up from here in our next empowerment session on next Sunday at 9 a.m. And we're going to talk a little bit more about patterns, but I want to delve into the universal patterns and how they affect us, how they impact our everyday life. Those patterns of seed time and harvest and of seasons and expansion, contraction, and so on and so forth, and how we can use them, manipulate them to curate and create the kind of lived experience that we desire. Okay, so we're going to dig into each one of those, unpack them, and then see how they are put in place to serve us. We may look at some of the other, I hate to use the term sub patterns, but other patterns that come underneath those umbrellas as well, and see how they are put in place to serve us so that you can begin to use, especially patterns concerning nature and how interconnected we are with nature. We'll get more into that on next week. Okay. All right. Those of you who would like to, please take a moment and show your appreciation and support for this platform and what you've received from here by giving. It is your greatest way of demonstrating your love and support for this platform. My coffee's cold. Greatest expression of love is, of course, generosity. You can do so by using our Cashapp or our Zelle. I appreciate you. It is not something that is mandated, but if you would like to support, I appreciate it. It is needed. It is necessary. And it is appreciated from each and every one of you. Take a moment and do that right now. Pick up your phone while it's in your hand or while you're thinking about it, and go ahead and send your generous donation by way of either one of the two mechanisms that you see displayed on your screen. And you're not going to get a new house because you do it, or a new car. It's not going to rain down money, or money trees going to grow in your backyard. Oh, Lord have mercy. or any of those other kind of manipulative tactics that are used by people. No, you just simply align yourself with the laws of increase and abundance and so on and so forth, and circulation, compensation. All of these laws are in effect for you, whether you give to me or you give to someone else or give to some other thing. I'm imploring you to give and be supportive of this. If this platform has blessed you, empowered you, impacted you positively, then I encourage you and admonish you to be a giver and a supporter of the platform. Okay? I appreciate each and every one of you that do. And I pray that you have the most outstanding Sunday that you can possibly have until I see you again. All right? Have a great day.